succeed or you give up. You never fail, because every time you lose money or something happens, you get a lesson from that, and that helps you on your path. Because people think.
Today we've got special guest Josh Hooper in the studio with us today. He's a 23-year-old real estate investor and serial entrepreneur. He's built up over the past 5 years $40,000 in passive income monthly from Amazon and real estate investing. So just crushing in all areas of life. So welcome to the show, bro.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Daniel. You know, it's good to be here, spend some time with you and talk some story.
Awesome, man. I think I watched your kind of evolution from a few years ago to where you are now. And it's been a really fun journey to kind of watch when you're just getting started in real estate into where you are like now in your path.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a journey, you know, starting young. It always is a little interesting coming into an industry like real estate where, you know, when you come into it, you look at all the people like, dude, these people are old. Are they going to even accept me? Right? Like I show up to the first real estate meetup, like whose little brother is this coming to the thing? Like, is he trying to, you know, what is this kid doing here? But, you know, over time, just learning, finding a mentor first, of course, and then getting, you know, stages one after another from residential to commercial and to where we are here today. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So speaking of which, like just your journey to get here is, what were you doing before real estate? And then how did you kind of get introduced and get started in real estate investing? Okay.
Yeah. So story, bit interesting. So I guess my entire life, I was kind of a quote unquote entrepreneur.
Okay.
When I was a little kid, I loved fish. So my first business I ever had was breeding fish and selling fish on Craigslist.
Okay.
And it was the worst business, lost so much money, but obviously, you know how your parents are, right? They're like, okay, let them learn, let them see how it is to do something and make money from it.
But it was kind of like it took you like it was like your own business where you took a lot of learning lessons and it was probably like a good like growth process there like during the whole time, right? So
yep. So that was kind of my life through, I guess, my younger days. And even in high school, I did kind of like reselling shoes, sneakers, that kind of stuff. But when I turned 18, my very first company was the Amazon FBA company that I started. Funny thing is that Christmas 2018, I was like, what do I want for Christmas? And I stumbled across this guy's, you know, ad on Facebook or I think it was Instagram. Actually, I didn't use Facebook at the time. And I was like, Mom, you want to just buy me this course for Christmas? And she obviously looked at me like an idiot. Like, why are you paying $1,000 for some guy's course? And yeah, that was the best $1,000 I ever spent in my life. I feel like, I mean, that really set it off. That was my first semester in college. And even then I went to college. I was like, okay, I'm going to be an engineer, right? I know your background, you be an engineer. Okay, engineers make good money, right? Just got to go through 4 years, get a job and work for 40 years with all these corporate benefits. But I felt like there was something more to life than just being that, right? And yeah, so I started that company, and a year later, I mean, it started taking off. Fast forward, by the time I was graduating, I was already making, you know, close to 6-7 figures, or not 7 figures, but, you know, well,
yeah. It's you know, over from the Amazon FBA store. Yeah. And then how did you transition from the Amazon over to real estate? What was that journey like?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest switch was during COVID. Obviously, everybody had nothing to do. Right? It was like, I'm bored. So I stumbled across the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So
and that's kind of the foundation where everybody's like, that's what got
the light bulb
me
went on. I mean, I hear that all the time. It was my story too. So amazing.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, I read this book. I'm like, wow. All the money I was making from Amazon at the time, I was like, I was investing in the stock market, you know, either S&P or some mutual fund that you could just find by Googling best mutual funds. And I read the book. I was like, man, I'm an idiot. I got to do something different, right? I was like, and then even worse, I was like, my whole family's idiots. They're all doing this too, right? But yeah, so I started just digging into it. And the thing about that book, which I like, but I don't like at the same time, is it tells you what you need to do, but he doesn't tell you how, right?
I think it's part of the genius of the book where like it kind of gives you like the game plan of like what's possible, but it doesn't give the exact steps. It kind of leaves it open to like your own interpretation, right?
So yeah, I went digging. I was like, okay, how do I buy real estate? What does that even mean to buy real estate? Does it mean I buy a house? Does it mean I go find an Airbnb and try to buy it or something? Luckily, my mom actually used to be an investor with Corey Namoto. And she had that contact, and I asked her, and she's like, yeah, I'll reach out to him. We'll see if he's...
So Corey Namoto is like a local investor here in Hawaii.
Yeah. Corey is... he owns Keiko Capital, for people who don't know. It's a hard money company down here. Great people, by the way. But yeah, we met one day. He took me under his wing, and he basically taught me everything for a year. And it was awesome learning from a guy like that.
Okay. So when you say taught you everything and learn everything, what were kind of like the skills or the tools that he kind of equipped you with?
Yeah, good question. I'd say what he did first, which kind of I didn't really understand at the time either, but it was super valuable, is the first month that we even knew each other, he didn't talk about anything real estate.
Okay.
He did not. He was like, before we even get to real estate, you have to figure out why you're doing this. What are you doing this for? He's like, because if your goal is to just, you know, have a nice car or something, like you're going to fizzle out in no time because there's no purpose behind that.
Okay.
So the whole first month, it was just like, why are you doing this? What do you care about in life? Why do you even want to make this kind of money?
It's like a real introspective kind of looking inside like yourself.
Yeah,
and like
wanted to make sure I had my heart in the right place, I think, but also to have that why so I wouldn't give up on him too.
So what is your why? I think curiosity.
Oh, that's hard. That's something I normally don't share because it's kind of a little more personal, but it is, you know, everybody says family, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not getting into the specific details, but obviously, you know, putting, not only being able to, you know, take care of yourself, but also all your family members where when expenses come up, it's not like the end of the world. I hate to see that in other people's lives where a $5,000 expense basically ruins their entire financial situation. And so us growing up, our family was middle class, upper middle class. So we're still well off, but you know, money was always still kind of
always an issue or in the back of your mind. So
you know, it's Hawaii. We have the highest cost of living in the entire United States.
We feel that,
yeah. But yeah, my why is definitely family. For sure.
I think a lot of people can resonate with that because I think that's a lot of people's whys. And so like nothing to be ashamed of is actually like a really good thing. I think it's like you said, like your why is really has to drive you through those difficult times, right? Because real estate investing or anything hard is always going to be like tough at times, whether it's super boring or there's a challenge, but your why is really going to kind of drive you or push you over the edge to kind of overcome those obstacles, right? So
definitely.
So first month, you guys are like doing some hand holding together and just talking about your feelings.
Sure.
Then afterwards, when did you like, what was the kind of like the tools and strategies to kind of like actually do like the real estate investing side?
Yeah. So I think if I remember correctly, again, this was a couple years ago at this point. We first just went over kind of what he called it was the genesis of wealth creation. It's called finding deals and funding deals. He said, if you can figure out to do those two things, you will not have any problem in this industry. So we worked on finding deals, you know, running analysis, obviously being uber conservative because the thing he told me that really stuck with me to this day, he says, Josh, I've seen so many people in this industry that their first deal is their last deal and they disappear. And so he taught me to be just uber conservative and, you know, how to do business right. And also finding deals, off market marketing, you know, doing mailers, bandit signs at 1 a.m, you know, whatever we wanted to do. He's like, I'll show you what I did in the past. Cause he kind of had a similar situation when he first started too. And he just wanted to.
I think that's really good advice, like that, to be very conservative, especially on your first deal. And so I think as you kind of graduate and do more deals, now you have maybe like a bigger pool of cash to kind of play from, where you can take some losses in the future. But when you're just starting out, I think it's very important to be very conservative because you don't want to take a loss in your first deal, your first 2 deals, because that could really set you backwards and like you may never recover from that, right? So
definitely, yeah.
Great advice. Okay, so you guys are analyzing deals. You guys are kind of like learning how to like find them. Did you just immediately find your first deal and get your first
No,
flip?
if it was that easy, then everyone would be in this industry, right? I think my first deal from the day I started was 8 months.
Okay.
So during that 8 months, a lot of people would give up, right? They're like, dude, I've been doing this for 4 months. There's not an extra dollar in my bank account. I've been doing all this extra stuff, spending all this money.
It's a lot of work, right? A lot of time, energy, and money probably. So you're spending some time and money too, right? So
yeah. And I think where most people give up, that's where you have to keep going. And that's what's going to separate you from all those people, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
8 months, that was where I kind of got connected with CJ Cleo, WNN as well, and we started buying properties out in Kansas City.
Okay, so CJ, he runs another mentorship, WNN Properties, and their focus is out-of-state rental properties. So you got connected with his group, and then you decided like instead of staying in Hawaii, you wanted to invest out-of-state.
Yeah.
What was the thought process behind that?
Well, at that time, those kind of my goals. Right. When you stay down here, it is an equity market. It's not a cash flow market in a sense. So if you stay down here, you're really looking for just higher earning active income if you're going to be a flipper, right? A full-time flipper is a really full-time job. It's glorified because you make a lot of money doing it. But if you already have the money coming in and you just need to allocate capital for, you know, if you want to own property, you want to be able to have quote unquote cash flow, but all the other benefits
so
as
you're
well.
looking for cash flow and generational wealth building.
Yes,
so.
of course. Yeah. So that was kind of my goal. And I looked at that. I was like, okay, if I want to do this and I want to own properties, it's a lot more difficult to do it down here than out in Kansas City. And also the risk out there is significantly lower when you're buying properties at 100, 200,000 a pop.
Versus Hawaii, what would be like the median in Hawaii? You'd say like,
I'd say right now 1.15 is the median like around there.
For single families, right?
Yeah, single family. So yeah, we started buying out in Kansas City. Got the first.
When you say we, who's we?
When I say we in that aspect, it's actually just me.
Okay, so
this is kind of a dirty trick that I use sometimes. Is if you ever need to tell somebody something like hard, you blame it on your business partner. So you say we. You know. So
give me an example of when you use this.
It's like, okay, let's see you're negotiating with an agent or you're negotiating with a broker, right? You're like, you know, this is where we need to be. I've talked with my business partners, and this is where we need to be. So using we instead of I will kind of shift the blame off of you, but you can still be very honest and harsh. So you're not compromising.
I really like that. I think a lot of times it's always like the way you negotiate or the way you come across, right? So whenever you can get the people on your side and how come you against your business partner who's like the bad guy, it kind of gets you guys like on the same page, right? So
it helps the relationship a lot.
I love it. Ninja tip, guys. So, okay,
somewhat ethical.
So we are buying properties out of state.
Yeah.
What does that first deal look like for you?
The first deal, like a lot of guys I've talked to, it was not a home run deal. It wasn't, I just made $5 billion on this deal, right? It was a single family rental in I'd say a C area.
Okay. Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City C area. So that property.
How did you guys choose Kansas City, by the way?
Well, I honestly didn't pick it.
Okay.
The nice thing is when I did that consulting period with CJ, he had all the contacts out there.
Okay.
And that's the hardest thing about going to a market that you're not in, that you don't know about, is having contacts you can trust.
When you say contacts, what kind of contacts are you talking about?
It's going to be most definitely your general contractor, agents, property managers, inspectors, sometimes brokers if you're doing bigger deals as well. But yeah, that's the team.
So you kind of piggybacked off CJ's team that he built in Kansas City, and then you guys were, we were looking to buy that first property. How did that process look like? Was it on the MLS? How did that go?
Yeah, well, this one was not on the MLS, but it was a pocket listing from one of the agents. I don't know if pocket listing is still legal or whatever.
Don't worry about it.
But pocket listing from an agent. We picked it up at 80,000. We put in about 15 grand into it, and it was worth about 120. So, super basic. We left in a little bit of money, refinanced out, and put a tenant in.
What was your rent and what was your mortgage?
Okay. So that one, because it is a C area. So the trade-off when you come to property areas is the lower grade you go, the more cash flow you'll get. So C area will have that higher pro forma cap rate, but it won't be a good of an asset as like a B or A class area. So
that's talking about appreciation, or the kind
appreciation
of like
versus cash flow. Right. So that one, the rent was $1,000. Property was worth 120. Mortgage was actually a HELOC, interest only. So I had even more quote unquote cash flow. I think the monthly payment when the interest was locked was like $250, $300 a month.
Really, that little bit?
Like
so wow,
peanuts.
Wow. So that's a really high cash flow for you then at that point in time.
For the first deal, that was kind of what I was stuck on. I was always, when I very first started, was cash flow, right? I was stuck on, I need more cash flow because that's all I cared about was the bottom line.
Passive income, cash flow, which is awesome. So, So you did that, you finished that first deal, and then like how many more did you guys do in that same market?
In that same market, right now we have 16, I'm pretty sure.
Wow. So that's what, 1.5 years ago? How long did you start?
So the first one we bought in March of 2021.
Okay.
So about a year or so, a year and some change.
And then how are you like funding or paying for all the different rental properties?
So dirty secret, I had a lot of cash from the Amazon business that I needed to place when I first started.
So you actually were doing really well with the Amazon business.
Yeah.
Passive income and also active income coming from there. And you basically were placing that into like an asset that would build you more cash flow and appreciation and generational wealth at the same time. And some tax benefits?
Yes, of course. That's what we all love, tax benefits. But yeah, most of them were, I didn't really use private money until I started trying to do maybe 3 to 4 at the same time compared to just one. But it was a burst strategy, right? We buy it for cheap, renovate it a little bit, refinance, repeat, right? Rent it out.
The burst strategy? Can you just quickly run us through like what that is and like some of the numbers for that?
Okay, so burst. Do you want me to use this deal as an example?
Sure,
I guess?
sure.
Or
like maybe another one that has like a full burr or something.
Okay, so the second one was a full burr. So I think that one. Okay, so burr stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat.
Got it. Okay.
So we bought that one right at about $90,000.
Okay.
We rehabbed it. Rehab is renovating a home.
Rehab, okay.
We rehabbed that one for about $30,000. So we're all in around 120 and a little bit.
Okay.
We rented that one out. Currently, I think that one's right at about $1,300 a month.
Okay.
And we refinanced that. It appraised at 165.
So appraised at 165, you can pull out 75% of that. 80% of that. Wow.
Yeah.
And then how much did you take out of the 165?
165 times 0.8. I think that's about 132.
Okay.
Around there. So
you got all your 120 back plus a little bit more.
Plus a little bit more. And yep.
And then now you have a cash flowing rental and to add it to your rental portfolio. Yep. Rinse and repeat and keep on doing that over and over.
Rinse and repeat. Never run out of change.
Awesome. So you built up a small rental portfolio now, or decent size in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Looks like you're cash flowing pretty well from that. What's kind of like your next goals, or where are you trying to go from there?
I'd say obviously economies of scale. We like to do bigger and bigger deals. At this point, and you probably feel the same way with a lot of the flips, single family stuff doesn't really even get you excited anymore. It's like, it's just another deal. I was like, okay, I'll do it. Whatever. There's so much on that. There's no excitement to it. It's like,
I like single families, but I mean like,
fair enough.
Everybody.
But I think commercial, obviously, because higher price points, obviously there's more risk in a sense because it's a higher dollar amount, but the return on that risk is also significantly higher. So just your return on time when you're also looking at capital is super important.
So like you're shifting more into the commercial space, as you're saying, and
yeah.
one of the big reasons why is because the bigger price points and the bigger return comes along with the same amount of time that you're putting in.
Yeah, definitely. It does move slower, which is kind of even more boring. Real estate is already kind of boring by nature, I feel like. But yeah, return on time. That's what you
are you
start
looking for in Hawaii, or are you looking out of state for the commercial deals?
Commercial out of state. Kansas City again. We have a team out there, and they're great. They're trustworthy, and yeah, we're just putting out offers. We focus right now on either commercial, retail, industrial, or some multifamily. It's just the deal has to be right. We have experience on all fronts. It's just if the deal makes sense, right? At the end of the day.
What's kind of like the so it seems like you're slowly kind of building up, ramping up your success. You got Amazon, you do single families, now you're going to commercial. What's kind of like your ultimate goal, maybe like 5 or 10 years from now?
That's hard. I think the kid in me says just building crazy stuff.
Okay.
Right? When you're a kid, or at least when I was a kid, I love Legos, right?
Okay.
You always like building something stupid and just showing it to your mom. Like, dude, look at that. Right? So if you could do that, if you have the capital to do that in real life, like if you want to build a skyscraper, put your name on it, right? Put that big
Trump Tower.
And then you put a big antenna on it.
Hoover Tower.
Yeah. Just do whatever you want and obviously still make money doing it with, good margins and stuff, but just making a bigger impact. I think also because obviously housing is an issue in the United States, and over the next 10 years it's not going to get any better. What people are projecting. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there in either housing or commercial, retail, whatever aspect. It's just population's growing at the end of the day, and if you can solve that problem or solve the outcome of that problem, then you'll make a lot of money and you'll have fun doing it.
Where would you build your skyscraper? Would it be Hawaii or would it be somewhere else?
It'd have to be one down here, just because it's like I was born and raised here, right? I gotta see that every time I walk out of my house or wherever the hell I'm living. But it would be fun.
Have you ever taken a loss before in any of your deals?
I wouldn't say. I got to think, but I don't think so.
Okay.
The nice thing about Kansas City and these properties is we're normally not selling them.
Okay.
You're not really taking a loss unless you sell it. I've never actually been negative equity on a property as well. But in Kansas City, the thing with real estate is normally time heals wounds, right? So if you're able to hold a property for 5 to 10 years, there's probably like a 1% chance you'll actually lose money on it when you go to sell. Obviously, your ROI on the money you have locked up there sucks, but you're not going to lose.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I think so. The kind of seeing your journey, you've built up a lot of passive income over the last 2 or 3 years. Do you feel like you have more time, or like what's kind of like, what does your typical day look like for you?
Oh, my typical day. People are going to hate me when I tell them. So really, the nice thing about how I've had everything set up is when I looked at a company or I looked at any type of business, I wanted it to be something that I could always step away from. If it was something that I had to be owner operator, I would never touch it. So
that was a conscious decision as you're looking at your opportunities.
Yes, always. And because of that, the way I am now, I can run everything from a laptop or a phone. And even that, on the Amazon side, 95% is automated. So I'm only like 5% there for issues that pop up. And then on the real estate side, obviously with the property manager, I only get bothered if an issue pops up again. So every day I wake up normally about 7 to 8 a.m. I check my phone, my emails, whatever I got to do.
Scroll on Instagram
for a couple hours. I eat my first meal. I either watch YouTube or solve any problems that I have that day. When it turns about 12, I eat another meal, go to the gym, come home, and whatever I got planned for the rest of the day, that's my day, man. It's crazy.
Amazing. So, I mean, what part of the day are you actually working on the business?
I'd say if it's a normal day, about 3 to 5 hours.
And that's
total.
like in the morning, or is it usually in the afternoon?
I prefer the morning because I've noticed myself and a lot of people is their brain works a lot faster in the morning compared to nighttime. So I try to have...
Why do you think that is, just out of curiosity?
I'm not sure exactly. Obviously, when you're rested, you have a lot more cognitive function. But on top of that, I think when you don't eat first, like you wake up and you have that hour or two before you eat, I feel like food kind of makes you more tired.
I feel the exact same way, right? I always like when I eat like during the middle of the day, and like I have a big meal, like my brain my whole body shuts down for the next like 2 hours. I gotta recover.
I think that first hour or two where you're fasted, your brain's working well, that's like where I work super fast.
Super productive. So it's like focus and productive work. So like you're working 3 to 5 hours, but it's super productive and super focused, what you're saying. So.
Yeah. And then if it's a day that I don't feel like doing anything, zero. I don't have to do anything. I'm just like, whatever.
I mean, I think that's really amazing and attractive for like a lot of people, where you're able to, this businesses that you're in, Amazon and also rental properties or real estate investing, has allowed you to have like the freedom of time to kind of do or schedule the day however you want. Like
exactly. Yeah. And that was the goal when I was 18. I was like, I want to be able to do what I want, when I want, and still be get paid for it. So, luckily we're kind of there. I never feel like I'm at the end, right? It's always a journey. But you always just got to keep pushing and not stay comfortable, even though the situation is pretty awesome.
Well, it's kind of like maybe like the biggest like hurdle or obstacle to kind of getting to where you are now. Do you have like some big challenges along the way?
I'd say the biggest obstacle was I was in college. So the 4 years from 18 to 22, I was full-time engineer in college. I went to UH.
Did you graduate from there?
I did graduate. I graduated summa cum laude, all the awards.
With electrical engineering degree or
civil engineer. But yeah, those 4 years was the kind of the years where I was building the foundation, but I was also in college. And by the time I was 20, I was making, a good chunk of change. And I always thought like, why can't I just drop out? Why can I just get out of this? I'm not going to do it. There's no point in me being here. So I think the biggest challenge was just staying not motivated, but disciplined to doing all my schoolwork and making sure every semester that all was well.
It's just because you're already in a bigger opportunity. So you felt like the opportunity that you're in college was a smaller opportunity. So it was harder for you to focus on this side when you feel like you want to play in this box.
Yeah. And I also struggled when I was graduating. I was like, my businesses right now take me 2-3 hours a day to run. I could even work as an engineer and tack that salary on top of it as an opportunity. So even that was kind of a challenge of, should I do that? Should I not? And I ended up deciding not to, because obviously with the time that I have, I could allocate that to bigger and better.
So as opposed to allocating your time into like a W-2, like the 40 hours a week, you'd allocate that same time somewhere else to give you kind of like a bigger return on your time.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing. So like maybe like the piece of advice that you give somebody who's like, maybe they're in college or they're trying to figure out their life and what they want to do, and they see different opportunities. How does somebody determine like what opportunity or what to focus on like in the for their future?
Yeah, that's difficult because everybody's situation is different, right? Like I know people that are 18, 20 working a full-time job, and then there's guys that are about to graduate and go into the workforce, right? So at the end of the day, if you're my age, you're young, right? No matter what industry you're going to go into, you're probably young. So having that is obviously a big pro because you're that, I guess because you're young. I don't know what
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
but
Explain
what
that.
you're able to do is if you have goals that you want to achieve, you have to
Okay.
allocate a lot of your time to doing that. So if you want to be, retired by your 25, retired by your
Okay.
30, look at that and see what you need to do to be there and
Okay.
just reverse engineer that backwards.
Got it.
So I'm like, okay, if I'm making this much money a year, I need to allocate this much to either putting it into an investment fund, or I need to allocate this into education to learn how to buy real estate, or just figuring out ways to make money while you're sleeping. I feel like that's the biggest thing.
So like a very practical steps is like, I look for where you want to be like in 5 to 10 years and work backwards. Like you said, reverse engineer on how much passive income do you need to kind of get yourself there.
Yeah. And then make it very specific. When you have blanket goals, you'll never reach them. You need to have very defined goals. That way you can, again, work back from it and be like, okay, if I want 50,000 a month passive.
Can you give me an example of like a blanket goal versus like a very specific goal?
Okay, blanket goal, I want to be retired by 30.
Okay.
So obviously that would be your end goal, but what do you need to be retired by 30? Do I need 50,000 a month, 30,000 a month that I'm making? Okay, how am I going to make that $30,000 a month? Am I going to do it through real estate? If I'm going to do it through real estate, how many properties do I need to buy? How many properties do I need to flip in order to do that? And if that's the case, what do I need to do in the next month to be on that track? What do I need to do in the next year to be on that track?
Yeah.
And then that way you can have milestones along the way to know that you're on track to that end goal.
Yeah.
So if you just have that blanket goal and you read it every morning, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think nothing, but
obviously
it's a lot less
you're not
probable.
Push yourself as far forward as if you had something very specific and tangible that you're trying to reach for.
I know there's that one book that you even told me to read. It was called The 12-Week Year.
Okay.
And they broke down a year into 12 weeks. And then from there, they had goals and milestones every week and then every 4 weeks. So it was really easy or every 3 weeks, not every 4 weeks, I think. But yeah, that way it's a lot easier to plan your goals and
make a game plan and kind of like move the ball forward
and check in with yourself every week or
every quarter. Yeah. That's really good. Have you ever, what's like the most money you've made on a single deal?
Most money I've made on a deal, like real estate wise, right?
Let's do real estate wise.
Okay. I mean, I'd say one that was pretty good, just recently picked it up this year. Actually got it under contract on my birthday.
Okay.
But it was a 5-package deal off market. This came from a realtor that I worked with. And we built that relationship. I probably closed before this 5, 6
deals with this guy.
Actually, no, probably closer to 10 with this. And then I've also referred a lot of my buddies to him. So I had that good relationship with him. Yeah. And this deal, we purchased it, if I remember correctly, about $340 as is. It was all tenanted up, all performing, and as is, it was worth about $550, $600.
Wow. Okay, so there's a lot of equity in that one.
Yeah, so it was a crap ton of equity, and it was an amazing deal all around. Good area.
How much cash flow would you say is it monthly?
So the reason, I guess, the only downside to that property is it was under market rent, but every month is about $3,800 just coming in. And if you do it at the purchase price, it is a great cap rate performer, but at the value that it is, it's not as great. But right now, I mean, it's just free equity we're sitting on. And if we need to realize it at any time, we can just refi it out. So, yeah.
So, I mean, like you have like a team over, I mean, out of state, like thousands of miles away, and you manage your whole company from your laptop, your phone, you said. What are some of like the tools or like the apps that you use to kind of like make this all happen?
A lot of guys, again, they see a course, they see a dream, and they expect it to happen in 2 or 3 months. They give up. And that kind of leads to the second point is persistence, determination, right? You can't just give up. It was actually kind of funny because we were at the Deals in Aloha. Was it yesterday? Or
it's a local meetup, right? Like local real estate
investor meetup. And some lady asked, is there a point where you just walk away? I'm like, no.
Yeah, you're talking about like a bad deal. Like, let's say you have a bad deal. Is there any point where you just walk away from the deal, right?
No, you can't walk away because you have to, every time there's a problem, you have to solve it, and you have to be able to either pivot or, just do something to get around that issue. If you give up, you'll fail. That's always, you either succeed or you give up. You never fail because every time you lose money or something happens, you get a lesson from that. And that helps you on your path. Because people think success and failure are like 2 different roads. It's not that way. Success is at the same road of failure, and it's a snake road where there's failures all the way along the way, and then you reach that success. eventually.
100%. No, I 100% agree with it. I think it's just, it's a really good lesson that like it's never a straight line too, right? There's always ups and downs, but like determination and persistence are a huge part of just being able to reach the goals that you're trying to hit.
Yeah,
So like
just
really
can't
love
give
that.
up, man.
Really love that.
You give up, everything's gone. Everything you wanted, everything you worked for, that why, that 5-year goal, in the trash if you give up. So yeah, just being determined, man. You got to do it.
Which brings me to another point is like recently you purchased a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Tell us about how's that been?
It's fun. It's a good car. I'm actually a really big car guy. I was into Japanese cars, but had to make the splurge. It was an awesome car, and it's honestly not that bad of an investment too if you break the numbers down. There's this thing called car hacking. I don't know if a lot of people have heard of it, but if you look into that and you're able to actually own cars for free or just lose a little bit of money over a couple years, I mean, dude, it's a super car, right? You're having fun. And a lot of people around you are like, whoa, what is that? And it's like a lot of times kids, obviously, when you park it in a parking lot, it's like, oh, Dad, look, it's the first time I've ever seen one, right? And you're like, yeah, just check it out. You know, let them have that experience too. So you're also making experiences for yourself and other people. And they put you in bigger rooms. Like there's clubs down here. There's Lamborghini Club of America. There's a Hawaii chapter. There's also a Ferrari Club where they invite Lamborghini owners. So meeting those types of people, obviously, if you have that type of car, you're at least somewhat successful in life.
I really like your idea of just getting to bigger rooms. I think that's a big part of being as a personal growth, but also as an investor is the bigger the rooms you can kind of get into, the faster you're going to kind of achieve like the goals of success that you want to, right? So,
yeah, definitely. And I know you are really good at that because I know you spend a good chunk of change.
I just pay my way to the rooms. Like I don't earn it. I'll just pay my way to sit in those rooms. And so it's a slight little life hack.
But honestly, like those investments are probably the best ROIs you'll ever get of just paying for either information or to meet people.
Yeah.
Because there's that one book, it's called Who Not How.
Yeah.
Even Blue Ocean Strategy. They all talk about, just knowing the right people and doing it better than everyone else, having the right partners will, make you
supercharge like your trajectory, right? So
definitely.
100%. Well, where can people find you if they want to get some coaching or they want to hear more about your story, Josh?
I don't really do coaching. Never really looked at it yet. I just feel like I'm kind of young, but I try to give people advice if they ever reach out. Obviously down here, there's a lot of local meetups. I'm normally there. But social media wise, I really only use Instagram and I barely use that too.
Okay.
But my handle is josh.hooper with 3 O's in the Hooper.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm there. You can find me, message me, whatever you want to do.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on today. Super stoked to have you and good luck on your skyscraper.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel.